let's have an adult and mature conversation about a topic that Falcons fans are split on, and that is whether or not Atlanta should trade Kyle Pittz. We're discussing this today because an ESPN article came out that suggested one move for all 32 teams before the season gets underway. And surprise, surprise, for the Atlanta Falcons, they recommended trading Kyle Pittz. So I want to start off by reading what ESPN had to say, and then I'll react to it and give my thoughts along the way. So let's start right here. Pittz has never matched the heights of his 1,000-yard rookie season, nor has he matched expectations as the number 4 overall pick. Very true. It's very unlikely that the Falcons extend or re-sign him after the 2025 season, so perhaps the best thing is to get some value for him now and let him see what he can do with a change of scenery. Timeout. Let me give my thoughts on that last part right there. So we can all agree that Pittz has been underwhelming for being the number 4 overall pick. You can place the blame wherever you want, but that does not change the fact that his production for where he went is not where we want it to be. So put that to the side for a second. The part that's a little bit up for debate now is it's unlikely Atlanta re-signs or extends him. I'd say at the moment that's very true, right? I'd say from what we've seen in the last 4 years, it seems like there's a 90% chance that he's not coming back after 2025, unless he has an incredible breakout season. But even then, maybe the Falcons go, all right, now you're finally, good for us, but that just drove the price up and we're not going to pay that. We see that often with players who break out in their 5th year of their rookie contract, and the team just lets them walk. So I agree that it's unlikely at this point that he comes back in 2026. But what got glossed over was the part about best thing is to get some value for him now. Let's say Atlanta does trade Kyle Pittz tomorrow. Let's say they ship him off to the New York Jets, all right? And the Jets give him a 4th-round draft pick. That 4th-round draft pick is of no use to Atlanta during the 2025 season, right? It's just a twinkle in their eye. It's an unborn baby, right? The pick is not going to be a player that will contribute to your season. Whereas if you made that trade before the draft, well, then you use that pick on maybe a new tight end, and that tight end plays for you in 2025. So since the draft pick won't be of any use to you during the 2025 season, you could just hold on to Kyle Pittz, play him for the entire year. He could have a really good year. He may not have a great season. He's probably not going to have an atrocious season because he hasn't been downright atrocious. He just hasn't lived up to number 4 overall pick standards. If I said Kyle Pittz has 750 yards and 5 touchdowns this year, would that sound reasonable to you guys? He's added 1 touchdown every single year of his career, so he's on pace for 5 this season. I'd say we'd all agree with that, right? That seems like a Kyle Pittz stat line. Maybe 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. So instead of trading him now, getting a pick for him that is not going to help your 2025 team, why not, and this is where I fork in the road separate from ESPN, why not just hold on to him, get 700 or 800 yards from Pittz and 5 touchdowns out of him, and then let him go in free agency and get a comp pick? Right? You're getting use out of him for this season. You're getting yards and touchdowns. And you're still going to get a draft pick. It is not going to be for next year's draft because comp picks are always the year after that. So instead of getting a 4th-round pick from the Jets in 2026, you're going to get a comp pick in 2027. Which is, I know, very far in the future, it feels like, but it's 2025 right now. So that number is, scary sounding, but it's not as far as you might think. I think that might be the better path here. Yes, if you're Terry Fontenot, you have to bank on having a job in 2027, which Doesn't seem like a slam dunk bet to make just based on 4 straight losing seasons with you at the wheel. But still, you'd get the production from Pittz. You'd have Kyle Pittz on your roster for this year. And it's not like you're not going to get anything for him. I think that often gets lost of, they should have traded him. Instead, they just let him walk in free agency and they got nothing. No, they got the production out of him that season. Those 5 touchdowns could have come at very key moments of the season, right? Key moments of the game. And you are getting a draft pick. Now, I'm not going to try and sell it as good of a pick as maybe what you can get from the Jets. But comp picks begin in round 3. And the way the comp pick formula works is, 1, it's a bit of a secret. But 2, basically what it is if you have free agents leave your team, depending on the contract size they sign and simply how good they were for that team in that initial season after they left you, they take that, they spit it into some formula, and then they subtract away whatever free agent signings you made. So if you went out and spent a ton of money in free agency, right? Let's say Kyle Pittz signed with the Jets in free agency for a 2-year, $20 million contract, but you signed a tight end to a 2-year, $20 million contract. The NFL looks at that as, all right, it's kind of a wash, right? But some teams, like the Falcons, aren't ginormous spenders in free agency. They shelled out a ton of dough for Jesse Bates. But that's really about it. You know what I mean? Look back at the last 5, 6, 7 years. Are they frequent flyers in, blockbuster free agent signings? Not really. So instead of just, accepting as a loss, you could look at it as, we're going to get Pittz for this year, and we're going to get a comp pick for him. Sure, 1 year down the line, and it may not be as good of a pick as the pick you were offered in a trade back in June, July, August of 2025. But would you rather have this? Door number 1, the New York Jets 2026 4th-round draft pick, and no Kyle Pittz for this season. That's door number 1. Door number 2, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns from Kyle Pittz in 2025, and a comp pick in round 5 of the 2027 draft. Would you rather have 800 yards and 5 touchdowns and pick 1 round later and 1 year later, or the Jets' 4th-round pick? And I'm just throwing out the 4th rounder as some, starting point. I think you can make solid arguments for both sides. I don't put that up as, isn't it obvious which one you'd rather have? You can make good points for both cases here. But with the team the Falcons are putting together, I think I'd rather just see it through with Pittz. Because I want to make sure that you don't look back and have regrets about Penix's development. And if that means holding on to Pittz when you're a little wishy-washy on it, I am team, you get on your knees and do whatever it takes to make Michael Penix happy. Because it has to work. You took him top 10. You took him after you already signed Kirk Cousins. You had gone, this will be now 4 straight seasons of a different, unique Week 1 starting quarterback. That trend has to end with Penix. So shipping off the tight end that he threw an awesome touchdown to in the Commanders game to force overtime, I'm willing to see it through. Yeah, you may not get a draft pick out of him in a trade, but you're going to get a comp pick most likely, and you'll get some production from him. You can make an argument in 3 or 4 years, looking back with hindsight, they should have dealt him. But what that won't include is what impact that would have had on Penix's development. And right now, I'm team make Penix as comfortable as possible. So before the draft, back in February, March, April, if you remember, I was team trade Pittz because the Falcons were phasing him out of their offense. The last couple of weeks of the year, he was playing less than 50% of snaps, right there at that 47 to 49-ish mark. But since you're not getting a pick for him that would have resulted in a player for this season, I don't really care about a draft pick for next year because that can't help this year. And I want to help Michael Penix this year. So at this point, see it through. Keep Pittz. You'll likely get a comp pick for Pittz leaving in free agency, and you'll get Pitt's services for this year. That's my thought on whether or not Atlanta should deal him. So the Giants, the Jets were tossed out as possible trade destinations for Kyle Pittz and the Falcons, even the Eagles. So all over the East Coast right there. All right, that will do it for us on today's at-home video. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll see everyone next time.